Good afternoon, everyone. This is Jared Rand. Had a little hold up with a little power outage. Welcome to the Global Guided Meditation Call for Wednesday, November 6, 2024. A little after 3:15, about a half an hour past 3:15. We'll be having a Time for Change call tonight to kind of talk about the direction we're in now as a country and as a planet and what's going to be taking place very shortly here. Working on the soul's point of view, or from that perception. We come to appreciate that each one of us is living out his or her own karma. We interact together, and those interactions are the great grist for each other's mill of awakening. And from a personality point of view, you develop judgment, but from the soul's point of view, you develop appreciation. This shift from judging to appreciating yourself and what your karmic predicament is. You know, I've talked with people who have had, from their perspective, before they came into this current life, where they were given a choice and said that, you know, you can either go over here and work on your karma, or you can go down there and help them. Right? It's interesting. The ones that say, well, you know, I'm going to go down there and help them, and they end up creating more karma for themselves. Quite interesting how it plays out. So we all carry, what is karma anyway? It's just basically what we do lifetime to lifetime. Could be anything. And like anything else, there's good karma and there's bad karma. Now, if you do a lot of bad karma, bad things, okay, unscrupulous things, where you harm others, you know, what do we call it, misrepresent, whatever, and you do that a lot, well, you're going to have a big, huge container of karma. You know, we talk about karmic debt. It really isn't any debt. You just get to the point of awareness and spirituality where you go, you know what, I need to clean this mess up. And it's a real simple awareness. And to be free means to open your heart and your being to the fullness of who you are. The God, the kingdom of God, the heaven. Because only when you are resting in the place of unity can you truly honor and appreciate others and the incredible diversity of this universe. Now it's interesting because we have, on this planet, of course, for a long time, we have been made to believe, of course we never had any comparison again to reference it, but we were made to believe that, you know, you get married and it's a bond. You know, you have to do certain things. And in this country, and anywhere on the planet, the marriages all across this planet throughout the ages weren't real. Period. They were consummated through the dark controllers of the planet. Marriages were. Contract. Make more money. And you imagine people find this out, because eventually everybody will, that marriages have no authority. Never did. Completely never did. And you understand that the religious aspects and churches and stuff have been misguided, misdirected, manipulated, so you can see how all of it kind of fits into place. See, when as free beings, we choose to interact with others. That's it. Okay? That's it. We choose to interact with others. We don't choose to say, well, I'm committed for life. You're together. You're either together or you're not. It's a whole different comprehension. It's completely different. And that's why the civilization, as it moves more into spirituality, will begin to pick up on this. They'll be able to differentiate with themselves about it. All we know is that all we've ever seen and all we've ever been programmed with is what? Well, you do this, 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 and when this, and then you get married. And it was all a trick, quackery. Interesting. But, when a civilization embraces things like that, there's no comparison because no one has any start from anything else but what they've been programmed with. Two people come together to find that shared love, but continue to dance as two. In that union, both people are separate and yet not separate. Their relationship feeds both their unique individuality and their unity of consciousness. Love can open the way to surrendering into oneness. It gets extraordinarily beautiful when there's no more me and you, and it becomes just us. Taken to a deeper level, when compassion is fully developed, you are not looking at others as them. You're listening and experiencing and letting that intuitive part of you merge with the other being. And you're feeding their pain or joy or hope or fear in yourself. Then it's no longer us and them, it's just us. At a certain point, you realize that you see only the projections of your own mind. The play of phenomena is a projection of the spirit. The projections are your karma, your curriculum for this incarnation. And everything that's happening to you is a teaching designed to burn out your stuff, your attachments. Your humanity and all your desires are not some kind of error. They're integral parts of the journey. Now, one way of getting to this place of compassionate action is by honoring others and being patient. Look at the people you do not like and see them as an exercise for you to open your spiritual heart and to develop your compassion. The quieter you are, the more you hear the true nature of compassion. The intuitive, compassionate heart is the doorway to our unity. This is a story from a Keto master, Terry Dodson. And story, it shows how to bring about harmony by embracing conflict with compassion and understanding. The train clanked and rattled through the suburbs of Tokyo on a drowsy spring afternoon. Our car was comparatively empty. A few housewives with their kids in tow. Some old folks going shopping. I gazed absently at the drab houses and dusty hedgerows. At one station, the doors opened, and suddenly the afternoon quiet was shattered by a man bellowing violent, incomprehensible curses. The man staggered into our car. He wore a laborer's clothing, and he was big, drunk, and dirty, screaming. He swung at a woman holding a baby. The blow sent her spinning into the lap of an elderly couple. It was a miracle the baby was unharmed. Terrified, the couple jumped up and scrambled toward the end of the car. The laborer aimed a kick at the retreating back of the old woman, but missed as she scuffed and scuttled for safety. This so enraged the drunk that he grabbed the metal pole in the center of the car and tried to wrench it out of its stanchion. I could see that one of his hands was cut and bleeding. The train lurched ahead, and passengers frozen with fear. I stood up. I was young then, some 20 years ago, and in pretty good shape. I had been putting in a solid 8 hours of Aikido training every day for the past 3 years. I like to throw and grapple. I thought I was tough. The trouble was, my martial skill was untested in actual combat. As students of Aikido, we were not allowed to fight. Aikido, my teacher had said again and again and again, is the art of reconciliation. Whoever has the mind to fight has broken his connection to the universe. If you try to dominate people, you are already defeated. We study how to resolve conflict, not how to start it. I listened to his words. I tried so hard, I even went so far as to cross the street to avoid the kids, the pinball punks who lounge around the train station. My forbearance exalted me. I was both tough and holy in my heart. However, I wanted an absolutely legitimate opportunity whereby I might save the innocent by destroying the guilty. This is it, I said to myself. As I stood up, people are in danger. If I don't do something fast, somebody will probably get hurt. Seeing me stand up, the drunk recognized the chance to focus his rage. Aha, he roared, a foreigner. You need a lesson in Japanese manners. I held on tightly, or lightly, to the commuter strap overhead, gave him a slow look of disgust and dismissal. I planned to take this turkey apart, but he had to make the first move. I wanted him mad, so I pursed my lips and blew him an innocent kiss. All right, he hollered, you're going to get a lesson. He gathered himself for a rush at me. A fraction of a second before he could move, someone shouted, hey, and it was ear-splitting. I remember the strangely joyous, lilting quality of it, as though you and a friend had been searching diligently for something, and he had suddenly stumbled upon it. Hey! I wheeled to my left. The drunk spun to his right. We both stared down at a little old Japanese man. He must have been well into his 70s. This tiny gentleman sitting there, immaculate in his kimono. He took no notice of me, but beamed delightfully at the laborer as though he had a most important, most welcome secret to share. Come here, the old man said, in an easy vernacular, beckoning to the drunk. Come here and talk. Talk with me. He waved his hand lightly. The big man followed as if on a string. He planted his feet belligerently in front of the old gentleman and roared above the clacking wheels. Why the hell should I talk to you? The drunk now had his back to me. If his elbow moved so much as a millimeter, I'd drop him in his socks. The old man continued to beam at the laborer. What you been drinking? He asked, his eyes sparkling with interest. I've been drinking sake, The laborer bellowed back. And it's none of your business. Flecks of spittle spattered the old man. Oh, that's wonderful, the old man said. Absolutely wonderful. You see, I love sake too. Every night, me and my wife, she's 76, you know, we warm up a little bottle of sake, and we take it out in the garden, and we sit on our old wooden bench, and we watch the sun go down, and we look to see how our persimmons tree is doing. My great-grandfather planted that tree. We worry about whether it will recover from those ice storms we had last winter. Our tree has done better than I expected, though, especially when you consider the poor quality of the soil. It is gratifying to watch when we take our sake and go out to enjoy the evening, even when it rains. He looked up at the laborer, his eyes twinkling. As he struggled to follow the old man's conversation, the drunk's face began to soften. His fist slowly unclenched. Yeah, he said, I love persimmons too. His voice trailed off. Yes, said the old man, smiling. And I am sure you have a wonderful wife. Nah, my wife died. Very gently, swaying with the motion of the train, the big man began to sob. I don't got no wife. I don't got no home. I don't got no job. I'm so ashamed of myself. Tears rolled down his cheeks. A spasm of despair rippled through his body. There I was standing in my well-scrubbed youthful innocence, my make this world safe for democracy righteousness. I suddenly felt dirtier than he was. The train arrived at my stop. As the door opened, I heard the old man cluck sympathetically, my, he said. That is a difficult predicament. Sit down here. Tell me about it. I turned my head for one last look. The laborer was sprawled on the seat, his head in the old man's lap. The old man was softly stroking the filthy matted hair as the train pulled away. I sat down on a bench. What I wanted to do with muscle had been accomplished with kind words. I had just seen Aikido tried in combat, and the essence of it was love. You and I are in training to become conscious, compassionate beings in the truest and deepest sense. Become an instrument of joy, an instrument of equanimity, an instrument of presence, an instrument of love, an instrument of availability, and as the same moment, absolutely quiet. Since we all spend so much time in our relationships, why not turn them into a yoga for getting free? Living a spiritual life is a strategy for working on yourself for the benefit of all beings. That's another way of saying that the optimum thing you can do for someone else is to work on yourself. Not out of some idealistic sense of altruism, but because getting to oneness for yourself means resolving your sense of separateness to where we're all family. Use every situation you have with other people as a vehicle to work on yourself. See where you get stuck, where you push, where you grab, where you judge, where you do all the other stuff. Use your life experiences as your curriculum. When I look at a relationship, in other words, either with yourself or anything, my own or another's, I see a whole range of reasons we get together and ways we interact. Some are transactional, but the deeper impulse of every human relationship is to evoke the love and oneness that unites us. But what actually happens is that many relationships reinforce our separateness because of our misperception of ourselves as separate beings, and because of our desire systems, which are based on separateness or ego. Relationships only work in a spiritual sense when you and I really see that we are one. Relationships and emotions can reinforce our separateness, or they can be grist for the mill of awakening. When it comes to love relationships, we are like bees looking for a flower. The predicament is that the emotional power of loving somebody can get you so caught in the interpersonal melodrama that you can't get beyond the emotion. The problem with interpersonal love is that you are dependent on the other person to reflect love back to you. That's part of the illusion of separateness. The reality is that love is a state of being that comes from within. The only thing you really ever have to offer another being is your own state of being. When you're not entrapped by another being's appearance or behavior, you can see behind all that to a deeper level of their being, because your mind has tuned itself. You've shifted your focus just that little bit to see their soul. That soul quality is love. A lot of people this story goes really well with. It's like when I was growing up, I used to be somebody. We were all in somebody training in those days. You become somebody, then you tell everybody who you are. You hand out business cards and you say, "How do you do? I am somebody. I do such and such." Everybody is very important and special, and each being assesses how much more important they are than everybody else. We were all in that training. I became somebody because my parents wanted me to be special, and my educators wanted me to be special, and they trained me how to do that. It's called ego structuring. I really made it. I was really somebody. My parents were proud of me. I could look in their eyes and see pride and appreciation. That part was very gratifying. The only problem was, inside I felt lousy. I felt like somehow I shouldn't or should be happy, but I wasn't. I thought, well, happiness isn't everything, is it? As long as I am what everyone wants me to be, isn't that enough? But it wasn't. I felt very weird. There is a story I've told many times that describes that feeling of weirdness. A man wanted to have a suit made, so he went to the best tailor in town, who was named Zumbach. Zumbach took his measurements and ordered the best material. The man went for the final fitting, put on the suit. One sleeve was 2 inches longer than the other. He said, "Zumbach, I don't want to complain. It's a beautiful suit. But this sleeve is 2 inches longer than that sleeve." Zumbach looked affronted. He said, "There's nothing wrong with this suit. It's the way you are standing." And he pushed one of the man's shoulders down and the other one up, and he said, "See, if you stand like that, it fits perfectly." The fellow looked in the mirror again, and there was all this loose material behind his collar. He said, "Zumbach, what's all this material sticking out?" Zumbach said, "There is nothing wrong with that suit. It's the way you are standing." And he pushed in the man's chin and made him hunch his shoulders. So see, it's perfect. Finally, the suit was fitting perfectly, and the man left. He was walking to the bus in his new perfectly fitting suit, and somebody came up to him and said, "What a beautiful suit. I bet Zumbach the tailor made it." Man said, "How did you know?" "Because only a tailor of Zumbach's skill could make a suit fit so perfectly on somebody as crippled as you are." Well, that is what I felt like. Everybody kept telling me what a beautiful suit I was wearing, but I felt like I was in Zumbach's suit. Wearing Zumbach's suit is sort of what you feel like in some relationships. When you take off the suit, start to see behind the veils, it's as if you're looking at someone and saying, "Are you here? I'm here. Here we are, far out." If somebody at work is a problem for you, they're not the one who needs to change. If someone is a problem for you, it's you who needs to change. If you feel they're causing you trouble, that's your problem. It's on you. Your job is to clear yourself. If they're creating a problem for themselves, that's their karma. When Christ was being crucified, he said, "Forgive me, for they know not what they do." He was trying to help others out of being a problem for themselves. They weren't a problem for him because he was clear. Ideally, you clear yourself right in the situation, but often it's too sticky and you can't do it. You step back then, do the practices you do in the morning and evening or on weekends to stay clear. Do the stuff that quiets you down inside. Next time you go into that work situation, you may lose it again. Just go home and see how you lost it. Examine it. You go into the next day and you love it. Again, you start keeping a diary of how did I lose it today? And then you go and do it again. And after a while, when you're starting to lose it, you don't buy in so much. You start to watch the mechanics of what it is that rules you, that makes you love it all the time. And when you get to the point of seeing stuff as it actually is happening, the tendrils of attachment will begin to loosen. If you don't appreciate me, that's your problem. If I need love, I need your love or your approval, then it's my problem. Then my needs are giving you power over me. But it's not your power. It's the power of my desire system. The power other people have to shake you out of your equanimity and love and consciousness has to do with your own attachments and the clinging of your mind. This is where your work is on yourself, where you need to meditate more, You choose to. Where you need to reflect more. Where you need a deeper philosophical framework. It's where you need to cultivate the witness more. It's where you decide to practice opening your heart more in circumstances that aren't optimum or easy. This is your work. You were given a heavy curriculum at full course load. This is it. There is no blame. You're not being graded. It's just what's on your plate at this moment. Using relationships as a vehicle to freedom means we have to learn to listen. Listen to each being at each level of their being. The art of listening comes from a quiet mind and an open heart. Listening uses all of your senses, and it is a subtle skill. Listen, just listen. Not only with the ear, but also with your being. Your being becomes the instrument of listening. Your sensing mechanisms in this life are not just your ears, eyes, skin, and analytic mind. It's something deeper, something intuitive, quality of knowing. With all of your being, you become an antenna to the nature of another being. And then for the relationship to remain as living spirit, one of the best ingredients to put into the stew is truth. See, we have, and you've heard me say this over and over again, it's all about you. It isn't about anything else but you. It's you discovering who and what you are. And knowing who and what you are. And knowing in that body, right, how it is. How is that body? How are you in that body? You know, the story of the old man with the drunk, right, who had lost everything. And then, of course, the other guy on the train wanting to basically knock him on his rear. Now, in situations, okay, people say, well, you know, you never know with other people because you don't know what's going on with them and they could just all of a sudden shoot you or do something, you know, crazy. But like the train, you know, there was no gun or anything. But I've been in situations where you're sitting someplace and somebody just, you don't know, just starts trying to antagonize you. Yeah, I don't know if you've ever experienced that you're just kind of just doing your own thing. And they just, and of course, you know, you might be sitting at the bar, right? Or standing. And they're just sitting there by themselves, consuming. And you kind of know that they aren't real clear. And so they say, you know, and you look over that way, and then, of course, that antagonizes them, thinking that you're looking at them. And so you could turn that either way. You could turn it as a fisticuff, or you could turn it into nothingness. And so when you agree with somebody who is antagonistic, it totally diffuses them. And that's what happened with that guy. I just diffused him. He just, you know, I totally agree with you, and there was no confrontation in his eyes at all. So he just kind of withdrew. And it just depends on how we pick up on each other without immediately thinking that there's going to be conflict or this is scary or whatever. It's like Gandhi spent his life in what he called experiments in truth. Just learning how to be truthful, he said. Only God knows absolute truth. And further, that he, being human, knew only relative truth, and that his understanding of it changed from day to day. Gandhi said that his commitment was to truth, not to consistency. It is important to honor your own truths, even though to other people you may appear to be inconsistent. In a speech to the Muslim world, a quote was given from the Quran: "Be conscious of God and always speak the truth." Compassionate use of truth requires discriminating wisdom, which comes from awareness of God within. For a long time, people have thought truth was expressed in words, but that's not always so. There are truths that are communicated only in silence. You have to know when to use words and when to use silence. There is a difference between paranoid silence and cosmic silence. Cosmic silence is a plane of consciousness that cannot be expressed in words. From that place, words are like a finger pointing at the moon. Silence is a luxury we can afford when we feel safe together in shared awareness. When I went to India for the second time, I thought Maharaji, I bought Maharaji a copy of the book, Be Here Now. I didn't hear anything for a while, and then one day he called me up to where he was sitting and said, "You're printing lies to this book, in this book." I said, "Oh no, Maharaji. Everything in the book is true." He said, "It says here that Hari Das Baba went into the jungle when he was 8 years old. You may recall that Hari Das Baba was assigned by Maharaji to teach me yoga." Maharaji said, "He didn't go into the jungle when he was 8 years old. He worked in the forestry department until 1962. Then he called the man over and asked, 'What do you do?' The man said, 'I'm the head of the forestry department.' Maharaji said, 'Do you know Hari Das Baba?' He said, 'Oh yes, he worked for me until 1962. Maharaji said, 'Okay, go.' Then in similar fashion, he showed me a couple of more fallacies in 2 more paragraphs, and he said, 'Why did you write that?' I said, 'Well, somebody told me all that stuff, and I don't know who told it to me, but somebody did, and it was somebody around you. And I believed it because it was all coming with love.' He said, 'Are you so simple that you believe everything and everybody tells you?' Hari Das Baba was a beautiful silent yogi. He was just being who he was. Maybe I'd developed this trip about him and listened to it because I wanted my teacher to be special." Maharaji said, "Whatever the reason, it's a lie. What are you getting to do or going to do about it?" I said, "Well, Maharaji, I'll change it. 80,000 copies are already distributed. I can't call them back, but the second printing is coming up, and I'll change it then." Sent a telegram to the Lama Foundation, which was printing the book, in Albuquerque. Told them to please delete the 2 paragraphs about Hari Das Baba in the next printing. Steve Durkee, the then head of Lama, who is now called Nurul Din, wrote back and said, "It can't be done now. I was just in Albuquerque," which is a couple of 100 miles from Lama, where there's no phone. I told them to go ahead and print it, and they were going to press that day. It was the pre-Christmas rush, and it was probably already printed. Steve said, "I received your telegram too late. We will change it in the 3rd edition, which will be printed in 3 months." I went back to my guru and I said, "Maharaji, I can't change it until the next edition. To change it now would cost at least $10,000. We would have to throw away the whole printing." He looked at me and he said, "Do it now." And he said, "Money and truth have nothing to do with one another." I'll join you in the meditation, and I'll return to close us out. Take an easy breath in through the nose. And then an easy breath out from the mouth. Remain still, relaxed into your body, focused on your breath rising and falling, and space between heartbeats. Who are you? Are you this body and mind? Are you this name? Are you what other people say you are? Or are you what you believe that others think about you? Think about how you define yourself and what specific qualities have you placed on top of you. This is the big question I invite you to inquire into today, to become deeply curious about. Who are you really? Remember that totally loving and accepting you is the ultimate destination. Take this with you for the rest of the day, into the evening and night, and the following morning. We will return here tonight for the Time for Change call at a little after 9:15 p.m. Eastern, and Thursday a little after 3:15 p.m. Eastern to continue our global guided meditation call. Be gentle, kind, generous, and humble with yourself at all times. Be in the highest of the highest high, deepest of the deepest deepest, purest of the purest purest. Eternal gratitude at all times, no matter what's going on out there or within you. Open your heart and allow the magic to flow in.